think when we finally recorded our first record, Turn on the Bright Lights, it was kind of like, as it is for most bands, it's the monkey off your back a little bit, where you spend so many years just playing shows in New York City. We've been playing shows for like 4 years before our first record came out. So it takes, you never know what's going to happen. You never know when you're going to finally, get a record label, and especially a record label that you like as much as, we do with Matador. But it takes something that's kind of like we're just playing, weekly or monthly shows at local clubs, writing songs as you go on to finally putting it onto a recording, and it kind of makes it just definitely feels like a monkey off your back, and like you're going to somewhere new, like a new sort of situation. Yeah.
I wish there would have been more talk about how we were the second coming of alternative or independent music, as opposed to the kind of talk that we heard a lot of during that time. And maybe if there weren't a sort of overarching scene of new music, particularly New York-based, that kind of happened when Turn on the Bright Lights came out, maybe that would have been the tagline that we would have heard more often. But we actually heard bunch of other things which can stay mysterious for the purposes of this interview, but they were just, a lot of dribble and distracting kind of notions about who we were artistically. And a lot of it, I feel, was fueled by the sort of hype that was being generated, not just about us, but about a bunch of other bands that were coming out around that time that we were always associated with.
I think in general, though, there is the first tour is always going to shine out because, again, it's like bona fide. It's like putting out your first record, where it goes from this thing that you're wishing you were doing, like recording songs for a record and touring, doing this with your life. You actually start doing it. So the first tour, we did a van tour around the U.S. and, driving like 12-hour days and still playing a show that day. As much as it's really rough, it's your first one. So there's a fondness to that. There'll always be, you'll start, and as time moves on, it becomes more and more fun, 'cause you start forgetting all like the harshness of the traveling, all this and that. But ultimately for me, I think it's really pleasant when you have, all of a sudden there's some people that you once, were like, oh man, that's one of my favorite bands, or I really like, I love their records and so forth. You start becoming peers with them, you start becoming friends with them, you start touring with them. And then you stop thinking about that stuff, and then you just see them, and they're just your friends that you're happy to see at a festival that you're both playing. It's kind of like, it's only 5 years removed, and you take it out of that context when you were still like, remembering like just listening to records. But all of a sudden you stop thinking from that notion, that you're just more like, oh, there's so-and-so from so-and-so, and really nice guy, blah, 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 But then it comes back to you when you finally put out a new record, and you're like, oh, I love this band. And you go back to like that fan sort of perspective. So to me, like, that I don't know. That's something that I kind of do think of once in a while, like to actually have this mutual admiration with bands that you once kind of from afar really respected and loved. It's that's a change.